Alright, we've heard the stories coming out of the briefing sessions and the slow release of information from the military. Now here's the real scoop on what's going on. Through intense, painstaking research, we can now bring you some illustrated, highly plausible theories on what happened to Malaysian flight MH370. Number 1. Heat-seeking missile. When the news was first reported of the missing flight and that there was no reported debris, a strike by a heat-seeking missile seemed plausible, and still is. It need only be a shoulder-launched RPG with heat-seeking capabilities, and remember, some of these have gone missing from the Ukraine area recently. Wherever it came from, it's possible that one of these missiles was test-fired in the South China Sea, missed its test target, and carried on to the nearest aircraft. As no known terror group has claimed responsibility, it's likely that this possible scenario was an accident, a rogue missile, or a possible overreaction to a perceived threat in a war games exercise. A heat-seeking missile would answer the question of why no debris field has been found. A heat-seeking missile would target the first heat source, the engines, and then explode, taking off the engine and part of the wing. In that scenario, the fuselage of the plane would enter the water intact, with no items released that would float. Now here's a little known fact. Most luxury yachts have extreme defense measures against pirates, including in some cases heat-seeking missiles. What if the plane carried out a toilet dump which just happened to land on one of these yachts all over the owner when he was sunbathing with his blonde crew? Would he be mad enough to fire a missile in retaliation? Number 2. The Iranian suspect counterintelligence. The photos of the suspects that were released by the Malaysian authorities are themselves suspect. These are the photos that were released showing the alleged Iranians that boarded with false passports. Notice anything here? They've got the same legs. And what is quite a bad photoshopped attempt, the legs of one are transposed on the other. Or is it the other way around? How do we know that the whole photo isn't photoshopped, or that these are indeed the guys that boarded? Remember the famous photo of Lee Harvey Oswald that surfaced after the JFK assassination, which purportedly shows Oswald with a rifle and the Free Cuba literature. With the shadows wrong and through expert analysis, it was shown almost certainly to be false. And you've got to ask yourself, who would do that? Who would divert attention away from the real killers to Oswald? If the same thing is going on here, it could mean a very deep conspiracy within certain government circles. More on that later. Number 3. The cosmic sign theory. Who remembers the Paul is dead theory from the Beatles in the 1960s? The theory goes that Paul McCartney dies in a car crash, was replaced by a lookalike, and some 30 clues surfaced in songs and the albums, including this one from the iconic Sgt. Pepper's album. If you place a mirror in the middle of the drum on the cover, it reads, "He die." Now sometimes the truth reveals itself in an underlying sign, a clue to those with eyes that see. Here we have a candlelit tribute to the lost flight, but what do we get when we look at a mirror image? It appears to say, "Die HM." Could HM be Her Majesty? Could this mean that the plane was stolen to use as a 9/11 mission to fly into Buckingham Palace? Ooh. Number 4. The cloaking conspiracy attack. Now on this flight were 20 employees from a semiconductor company that makes, amongst other things, cloaking devices for aircraft. These make an aircraft invisible to radar. Why were 20 employees on the same plane? Were they defecting? Going to a conference? About to share their secrets with another government? Imagine the scenario if this technology got into the wrong hands of a non-Western superpower, making their military jets invisible to Western radar. It just wouldn't be acceptable within certain circles, and steps might be taken to counter this threat. A black op might be launched with some possible wet work underway. In military terms, some civilian attrition, some collateral damage is perfectly acceptable to safeguard a nation's defence capabilities. Number 5. The dodgy co-pilot. Here he is on the right with 2 South African blondes that were invited to the cockpit and remained there for the duration on a previous flight 3 years ago. Does the character behaviour that led to this alarming breach of protocol make him more susceptible to blackmail? A family member having been kidnapped, or a cash offer too good to refuse? Could the Malaysian mafia have gotten to him? Was the plane carrying gold or other valuables that led to an inside job hijacking? The fact that the transponder and another communication device were turned off 14 minutes apart means that only a skilled pilot or someone with 777 knowledge could disable these devices deliberately and turn the plane around. Number 6. Possible locations. Bearing the above in mind, let's now look at where the aircraft might have gone with the fuel capacity it had. It's been stated that it had 6 more hours at normal cruising altitudes. This will take it anywhere in the Indian Ocean and on land right up to Pakistan. Remember, the radar intelligence had it heading on a course parallel with the equator through the Malacca Straits. It may have continued on this course or veered up past Afghanistan. At normal altitudes we only have some 6 hours flying time, but at higher altitudes it can go much further as the air is less dense and less fuel is needed to maintain flight. However, this would still make it visible to radar, not discounting any cloaking devices that may have been used. Another low-tech solution in hiding a plane from radar and saving fuel is to fly low to the water using ground effect. Birds use it to conserve energy by flying close to the water and using the ground effect of the supporting air close to the water's surface. For an aircraft, the optimum ground effect comes between half to 1 wingspan above the water, enabling it to substantially increase its flying time capacity and avoid standard radar. This could easily lead it to the far reaches of Kazakhstan or indeed Somalia, which hasn't been mentioned before. Indeed, the Somali pirates must be getting a little hungry now with the Captain Phillips type situations that have been facing them. Have they branched out to aircraft now by a combination of hijacking, blackmail or internal conspiracy? A plane could be landed on a beach or within a jungle clearing and hidden away quickly with camouflage nets. While possible, the unfolding events show that this was a planned and organised situation with a substantial organised group behind it, not likely to be local pirates. If it is never found, the cloaking conspiracy attack theory may hold true. If it is found later, stripped of all valuables in a jungle clearing or having been used in a terror attack laden with explosives, then at least there still may be some possibility that the passengers could have survived.